you've got to do a lot of testing, and then the next guy who comes along won't have to do so much testing because it's already been attempted and tried, and it's like, oh yeah, I saw him do it this way. And though I don't get to discuss what I do with you with many other trainers because I'm private, and I don't sort of have a social network, which I think there should be one for independent trainers. It's hard to impart this knowledge with other trainers and say it is possible to do. There's a whole new sector of people that need us, and we need them too. So that's basically I guess the issue that I found most surprising is that rigidity of muscle. Yeah. But I have to say, I have worked with elderly who have no cerebral palsy, yet the muscles felt as resistant. I mean, there was tightness in these particular individuals' muscles, and again, I was quite shocked. I thought, what's up with this? But again, it's use it or lose it, and it happens. So.
Yeah, it's kind of universal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, right.
Everybody.
Well, I actually started my connection with the atypical body like when I was a little kid. I have always been around either people with like a disability, either mentally, emotionally, physically, and so I was always comfortable with that. I mean, so that's one of the biggest problems that people face is their discomfort with a, forgive me, foreign body. It's like they just assume immediately that they're not the same, and when it comes to like the physical aspect of it, they assume it's not the same. They figure you have a whole different set of muscles than I do, when in fact we don't. The only difference is the messages your muscles get from your brain as opposed to mine. And so, I mean, having, like I said, started working with people who were different than myself at a young age, I've gotten quite comfortable, and I never questioned approaching them, and going from performer to athlete and then a personal trainer, it wasn't an issue. Like when you approached me, I did have to do some quick study on your form of CP, and then
What did you do?
well, I basically went online, went through, that's all easy.
Yeah.
And, I had dealt with people with cerebral palsy before. I knew it. So, but working with them physically, I didn't. And I thought, well, wait a minute, the body is the same. The anatomy is the same. The alignment is different, it's skewed, messages are received differently, but you need the same type of work that I need. You need to be flexible. It has to be maintained daily. Your bones need to increase in density. You only get that with a resistance type of activity. You respond the same way that I do with regards to that muscle flexibility and strength and bone density, which are all essential to keep you moving. So it's basically that. It was just not being frightened by your physical difference and working with you. And of course, there's lots of mental and emotional growths that happen when dealing with people who are different than myself, but I take that on as a life lesson. So that's that part of it. When I was a performer, I had experience with them. When I was a performer, dancer, and I suffered a knee injury. I had torn my ACL, my anterior cruciate ligament. I started doing some work with people who had spinal cord injury. They were, spina bifida, cerebral palsy, and so I got used to dealing with the body on rather intimate levels. I was living in Toronto, and we were called ILFs, which is short for Independent Living Facilitator. So I worked, instead of an ELF, it's an ILF. And so I worked in an apartment building that was specially designed to accommodate wheelchairs and differences, and I assisted them in their daily living. So I got used to the different body types. And this was a long time ago, 20-something odd years ago. And again, I learned at that point the similarities and the differences in our bodies. That was almost just like a not even knowing that personal training and therapy type of work that I'd be doing would ever happen. I used what I had learned back then And and then when you came into my circle, it was like, hey, I'm comfortable with this.
We actually have had extensive conversations related to how the clinical PT people kind of are like almost afraid to go the extra mile and like open up into the more athletically inspired
Right.
exercises, and that you do that.
Right. Well, I am lucky enough to have the time and the experience and the background to go there. Someone who deals just with PT, that's their focus. They probably have in the back of their minds, well, we could do this, but this venue, this place is not for that. We've got to stick to this regimen of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I think that's one of the factors in the limited amount of activities you get to do in a PT environment. But as well, it's also their background. If they don't have a movement background, a dance background, an athletic background, they're not going to know what things of those areas they could bring in for you to benefit from. They just know PT, and PT is pretty limited.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. It just doesn't have a wide spectrum of things to do.